Welcome to another Fireside. This is the podcast where we discuss primarily acupuncture, TCM, our medicine, as well as the business side of things. What it's like to be on this journey, the hardships that we all face, and things that are working now. I have two amazing guests today, Dr. Chloe Weber and Dr. Lauren Minuni. Did I say your last name right?
You did.
Okay, cool. I want you guys to do a brief intro of yourselves because I feel like whenever I'm reading the bios, I get ADHD and that sometimes I miss things, and I don't want to be the advocate. I want you guys to advocate for yourselves. So please tell them about y'all and all the amazing things you have going on and that you've done and that you're working on. Chloe, go first.
All right, I am Chloe. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine. I am the founder and CEO of Radical Roots Herbs, which combines CBD with Chinese herbs. I started it to help my son Remy, who has a rare genetic disorder called STXBP1. And then I also just launched Noxy Herbs, NOXI, not to be confused with other terms that sound somewhat similar, which is a modular system for women's health, which I'm super proud of and very excited about. I'm stoked that women's health is finally in the forefront of society's awareness. It's astounding because we are 51% of the population and have made every human alive. However, I'm really passionate about getting Chinese medicine into that conversation since it has yet to really get to the forefront. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you, Chloe. And Lauren, tell us about you.
Dr. Lauren Manuni. So I am also the weedologist. I specialize in trauma-informed care and cannabis and psilocybin, as well as I do have a background in Chinese medicine. So me and Chloe are like, yay! So it's really important for clean cannabis and understanding the medical side of it and how to integrate it in a health and wellness that also works with your pharmacology, your health and wellness goals. So that's me. I'm like, let's use it in a productive and positive way that benefits you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. So yeah, this is gonna be a little bit of a different conversation because of the modalities that we're talking about that we're bringing together. We haven't had a conversation like this before. And so this is something that fascinates me. I brought you gals together for a private conversation a while ago, and something seemed to be coalescing and some magic seemed to be happening. So I wanted to get you guys on the podcast talking about, yeah, this is an amazing idea to bring together. So from my perspective, I don't think that it's been a bad thing that CBD has become normalized, and even THC and the use of weed, medicinally, also recreationally. But with any new industry like this, regulation becomes a thing that we have to discuss. Efficacy becomes a thing that we have to discuss. The kind of scientific background of the medicine that we're trying to produce, it needs to be understood, needs to be scientific, and even if there's energetics and esotericism that comes into play, we can talk about those things, but we have to structure the conversation in a way that somebody that isn't oriented inside of these subjects can kind of get a sense of what we're talking about, why they should consider it, and what it can actually do. And we really also need to discuss what's being done wrong right now. I think there's a huge cash grab happening in the CBD spaces. Sometimes they're being overregulated, sometimes they're being underregulated, and when it comes to how should I say this? Essentially, with anything that's grown, it's not just about efficacy, it's also about the process that is involved in farming and converting that product, that crop into something that's medicinal. How we do that in an organic way, in a healthy way, and all those kinds of things. So I know that I didn't really start with a leading question, but let's start with you, Lauren. In terms of where these two modalities meet, how did TCM and for those of you who don't know traditional Chinese medicine and any of the medicines that are from the east part of the globe, how did that get married with weed and cannabis and CBD, THC, all the things?
Well, a hysterectomy and then a car accident where I died and came back, and
wow.
And having a background in nursing and never touching cannabis before the age of 38 and using it thinking this is amazing, and going to Budtenders and thinking I'm in good hands, and I was like, I'm not. And really understanding that cannabis is a whole nother monster. And when I hear people say cannabis isn't addictive and, all cannabis is clean, it's not. As well as from a medical standpoint, it's so important to understand the genetics and the terpenes and the cannabinoids. And when I got a master's degree in medical cannabis therapeutics, it was like this deep dive into cannabis, and really I nerded out on it. And I was like, I found it. I love it. So it really became a passion. And I like to say that I'm the gap filler between the medical community and the dispensaries, as well as there are so many things that are not asked. There are so many products that are recommended, or we see things that are garbage that actually can cause harm to people, especially medical patients or people that are even just coming into it from a curiosity standpoint. So to me, it's really the risk mitigation and making sure that you have all the facts, because we're all adults and I want everyone to be safe. And no one wants to be high for 12 and a half hours and go into psychosis.
Yeah, right. Chloe, so I want to pitch it to you. So in TCM, the cannabis is something that we have herbal descriptions of what it is and what it's for and what it does. I'm going to butcher this. I pulled it up because my herb recollection after 10 years is nothing. Hua ma ren and ma fen and ma gun. These are all things that are in the lexicon. But obviously, what you can buy at a dispensary these days looks very different from what they were working with back then. Tell us your kind of origin story and how you brought this into the conversation and created formulations. And was it hard or difficult to understand from a TCM perspective how they marry and how well do they marry? Because most of your formulas are TCM formulas, right? That you've done the formulations on.
Yeah. No, well, to me, I really didn't want to start another company. At the time that I started Radical Roots, I'm a single mom of a child with full needs. So Remy has multiple disabilities, cognitive and physical, and intractable epilepsy. So the last thing I wanted to do was start another business. However, when I started looking into CBD and how it works in the brain, how it works in the body, and how effective it is for epilepsy, I knew that as an herbalist and somebody who studied in traditional Chinese medicine, that the most powerful way to use herbal medicine is to use different herbs together to create dynamic formulas that are going to address not only the presenting symptoms, i.e. the seizures, but also the underlying patterns of disharmony within the body. And so for me, I got really excited about CBD. It was right around the time of the big CBD boom, 2018. And so I've reached out to a handful of companies and I begged them to just use my formulas. I'll write you formulas. I'll do it for free. I don't give a shit. Just this needs to get out there. And, nobody was really interested. Everybody was just interested in turning profits and getting their herbs out there as fast as possible, as cheaply as possible. And so ultimately I started Radical with my dear friend, Bart Beckerman, who's also a practitioner. And, what's amazing is how beautifully CBD seems to enhance the power of the Chinese herbal formulas. And I think part of that is that since CBD has such a powerful ability to regulate the nervous system, it almost allows your nervous system to accept the herbs in a level that they don't accept them otherwise. So it's, to me, has just been such a beautiful convalescence. It's just such a great addition to classical Chinese herbal medicine and makes our medicine even more powerful, especially when you're looking at things that CBD is traditionally used for. So like pain management, neurological conditions, epilepsy, sleep, anxiety. It's really a great combination.
Yeah. So Lauren, that brings up another question. I think you could speak to the chemical process, the mechanisms of action when it comes to how our body absorbs these constituent parts, how they harmonize together. Like what's happening in terms of, like you mentioned, I'm going to butcher the how you say it, the cannabinoid
Cannabinoids and our cannabinoid system. And I love what Chloe just said, was because cannabis really is an entourage effect, and it goes in and it actually works together with your body. And people in this industry, because it is profit oriented and it is a business, but also we have an ethical, moral responsibility, because everyone has voted in cannabis for medical, and yet no one's taking that seriously, is how we absorb it, how we take it. THC is just thrown out there. It's like, have some fucking more THC. And I hope I was allowed to say it. I'm sorry.
Of course.
But it's like the THC really, it is important, but it's more the cannabinoids and the terpenes. So like the CBD, the CBN, the CBG, the CBCs. So all of these CBCs, all of this together comes in and makes this beautiful symphony dance within your body that works together. And the THC does help that, but we don't need 32% and we don't need 800%. And I really hope people understand when they go to the dispensary and the person's like, it's 32%, it's fire. I want to like punch that when I hear that. It's not 32%. And as well as please stay away from anything that is not solventless and live resin, because you might as well be sucking on a Marlboro Red and have COPD in 20 years. But realistically, when you're talking about your cannabinoids or CB1 or CB2, it's how it's affecting your body, like brain, muscle tissue, libido. So you're really targeting in just like traditional Chinese medicine. And that's really how I approach this is, how do you want this to activate in your body? What do we want it to do? What do we want to stay away from to go in there and work with you versus not?
Okay. So what do you guys think is the biggest challenge that we're facing right now? I think that in terms of this being rolled out as medicine that is normalized and people aren't looking at as, one of the drugs on Nixon's list of, dangerous thing, reefer fever and all of these kinds of things, that it's not what we used to look at it as, a gateway drug that is going to turn us all into crack addicts in a few years and lose our lives and our livelihoods because we're in psychosis of some sort. I mean, obviously there are there's concerns for using it safely and using it in an informed way, but in terms of the way that it's been disseminated right now, the kinds of regulations that are around it and the industry that is formed around it, what do you think the biggest challenge, this is for either of you, what do you think the biggest challenges that we're facing right now, and how should we address them?
To me, I think, one of the things that I've found most difficult is the hoops in terms of marketing put such a cost barrier for small businesses. So what I've found is that most of the farmers and the small businesses who are putting out high quality hemp products that are really being grown biodynamically and organically, which hemp is a bioaccumulator. So it's going to pull up all the toxins in the earth, right? So it's really important that we're getting clean plants and that we're extracting them in ways that are getting all of the plant or as much of the plant in there as possible. As Lauren was mentioning, there's the CBCs, the CBGs, the CBDs, the terpenes. We want all of that product in the end product, all of the different parts of the plant. So what I found is that most of the companies that have gotten really big are the companies that have the budget in order to grow and expand successfully. Unfortunately, they're not necessarily the people who actually understand the plant, and respect the fucking customers, aka patients, which I can't call them patients, but you know what I mean, right? Like Lauren and I are in this because we care, because this is something that we've seen change people's lives, and it's a medicine that we take very seriously. And a lot of people are turning to cannabis, whether it's hemp or proper cannabis, in order to alleviate significant health concerns. Or to address them. And a lot of what they're getting on the market is really crappy products filled with toxins, mold, heavy metals, pesticides, and these things can be making them feel worse. And then on top of it, a lot of times they're getting crappy products and they're saying, oh, this just doesn't work. I tried CBD, it didn't work. And you're like, yeah, you got it at a bodega. Of course it's not. Like, let's look at the real medicine. And unfortunately, it is more expensive when it's done right, but it's also going to help a hell of a lot more. So that's the biggest issue that I see on my end with my small business.
And what drives me fucking nutty is when you go into something, you're like, can I see a COA? And you're like, what? A cost of, a certification of analysis. I want to see what you tested this plant for. I want to see the heavy metals, because just like Chloe said, is this plant, it soaks up everything. And a lot of time it's flushed for like the last 2 weeks to get everything out, but it's already in the plant. It's in the cellular part. And I love gone to Canamed, and just when you're talking about like these just genius doctors and stuff, and they're cutting implants and they're looking at it, and there's so many mold spores, and you're like, oh. And for people with medical conditions, like this can make you really sick, as well as you're looking at it's infused. What has it been infused with? It's got diamonds. What does that mean? As well as when we talk about this high level of concentrate, it's like this is when I talk about being addicted. Is it's because we did have that. I never touched cannabis till 38 because it was the gateway drug, like to being a hooker and like, and what I realized is cannabis is fabulous, but it's not for everyone. And you really have to be able to ask the questions. And what I've realized is traveling around the United States and going to dispensaries, when you ask someone, what are the genetics? Huh? And I had TBI and I have migraines. So when I go in, I'm like, I don't want anything that's going to cause a headache. And they 9 out of 10 times they're recommending products that actually the side effects are headaches. And I'm like, what? So it gets extremely frustrated. But the fact is, every state has its own criteria. So, and then a lot of times with products, because I do all the research on the products, is you go online to look at their COA and it doesn't match. It's to a different product. Or it's like, wait a minute, what are the terpene? What are these levels? And they're passing, it only puts a pass fail, but it doesn't tell you the amount is in there. And you're like, wait a minute. So it's almost kind of looking at like a genetically modified, where you start looking at like organic, and is this been biodiversified? How is the soil? How is this made? Who is creating this? Because true people that grow cannabis, these farmers, it's an art form. It is truly like a passion, and not just the people that are just putting shit out there to get you high. I mean, I can make great recommendations if you want to get high and talk to Jesus. But for most people, they just want to feel good in their body, and they don't want to wake up the next day with feeling like crap, like edibles. Like we don't talk about, like there's 3 phases of edibles. So you're like, you eat it, you're like, oh, I don't feel anything. And you eat another one and then you're like, oh fuck. I'm like, I'm portal jumping. I'm like, I know, right? So it really gets the question of what is in the cannabis, understanding these bud tenders and these businesses, what are you putting in it? Like even high quality gummies. Like I found a company that was great. And then I'm reading everything. And then they put artificial dyes and colors. And I'm like, what? I'm like, McFly, what are you doing? And they're trying to keep the cost down and clean cannabis. That's why I joke I'm Cannabis Karen, is that we as consumers, as I'm maybe just talking to myself, medical, I would pay more for a clean product, knowing that it's not going to cause me harm. It's not going to make me sick. So these are the things that literally, when I look at anything, I'm going and looking at that. And then I actually want it tested. And how did it smoke? How was it used? What, a lot of things like citric acid or these different things they're putting in it, which actually causes GERD and more problems. So it's like, and we're marketing it to sell it really fast and taste good, but it's actually fucking up with our body. And then when you add your pharmacology to it, you're like, oh shit.
I want to add, those bud tenders know nothing. Like I live in Boulder, Colorado, where you would think these people would be like on their game to some degree. Like this is like the stoner central of the entire country. And like I'll go in and I'll be like, what kind of extraction technique is that? And I'll be like, I have no idea. And I'll be like, okay, like where are you getting this from? And like any basic questions whatsoever. And they just have zero concept of what's going on. All they have is the 1 sentence talking point that came with whatever plant or whatever product that they're trying to sell. And they really don't know anything beyond that, which is really, again, sad and sort of disturbing, because we do have a lot of medical patients going in looking for relief, looking for help. And as you said, then they're going to be smoking mold, which is going to make them feel worse. Like they're going to get headaches. But, a lot of these bud tenders just think, yeah, smoke whatever, and it'll get rid of your headache. That's not how it works. And then, as you mentioned, again, really looking at what other meds are you on? How is that all interacting? But these budtenders, God bless them, they're entertaining as fuck. I enjoy our conversations every time, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about whatsoever. And it gets dangerous because it seems like it's a pseudo medical situation, right? So
Yeah.
like they're given this sort of air of knowledge, and you think, well, they've probably tried everything in the place, they know something, or they've talked to people about it, but they really, I mean, from my experience, have known absolutely nothing besides like the bare basics about what a product is.
No,
Yeah.
it is the most frustrating thing. It
I
is.
think you're muted.
Did I
Maybe
mute
I don't
myself?
hear you.
Oh, did I mute myself?
I can,
Um,
yeah, I can hear you both. I can hear you both.
but it is so frustrating. It's because you're going into a dispensary, and I call this the adult candy store. And, especially if you have a medical card, you've gone through your doctor saying yes, or you've then gone to, the state and you're turned in your paperwork and they're like, here you go. And then you walk into this candy store and you're like, what? And I've spent the last, 8 years trying everything and researching it. And I call that my cannabis party goblin thing. But really understanding, what are you taking? And really, how do you dose it properly? Because every person, just like in Chinese medicine, you meet them where they are. We all could have the same symptoms, and just like if we were doing an herbal tea or some kind of formulation, it's going to be different for everyone. And you would think that as a bud tender, you have to have a facility agent card, that you would have some sort of medical knowledge, like a CNA or just a baseline understanding. And it's not there. As well as what they ask you is, do you want an indica or sativa? And I'm like, that's not the right question. Like what are I go right back to, it's called a chemovar, but we call strains. And as from coming from nursing, when I hear strain, I'm like, we do not want a strain of anything. We want chemovar. But you want to know, how is it going to interact with your body? What are you targeting? Are you trying to target your brain, your muscular system, your nervous system? And an indica and a sativa doesn't mean anything. And that's where it gets really frustrating. And then I have to say one more thing, is the genetic is Blue Dream. I love Blue Dream for a headache. Every state's Blue Dream is different. And then there are different genetics of Blue Dream. So you could go in and say, I want Blue Dream. Well, what was it crossed with? How was it made? All these different things. So a Blue Dream in California and a Blue Dream in New York are completely different. So there is no kind of standardization or regularization. And I understand, because we're dealing with plant and soil, but there should be some kind of genetics or something you can look at it and be like, cool, this is in the framework of that's going to work with me and not. And as a medical person or practitioner, only 8% of the United States medical team is actually educated in cannabis. That's a little scary.
Yeah,
That's
this
more
is
than I would have expected, though.
this is something that we get into in when you're in school, certainly, and you're studying the herbs, is that in TCM you have two versions, at least two versions of ginseng, renchen. And so the herb that grows in China is considered a different herb than the version of ginseng that grows in the United States. Has different properties, that is better for different things. And if I like cigars, when you're talking about cigars from Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic, like the different places, anybody that smokes cigars knows that you taste different things, you smell different things in it, and the amount of attention and like the amount of space that we create for these cigars and this fucking tobacco, that in terms of cultivating flavors and an experience of it, is so meticulous that there's people, you have kind of these, it's like a sommelier but for cigars, that are trained on being able to taste the quality differences between tobacco that was grown in Nicaraguan soil versus Cuban soil versus Dominican soil, and that's something that we pay great attention to, for something that is just probably bad for you, and I say probably because I smoke them, and and something that is recreational, and something that is just, you do it because it's fun, I guess, or you get something cathartic out of it. It's something that doesn't live in the important space of medicine. and we don't do that for medicine. And some people are probably having this as some kind of, their mind is being blown. Like, what do you mean Chinese ginseng and American ginseng are two different herbs? Genetically, they might come from the same lineage, but they've just grown in different environments. And so what the soil properties imbue into those herbs is going to be completely different. What the climate imbues into those plants is going to be completely different. And obviously harvesting and cultivating them is going to be completely different. The water quality is going to be different. All of these things can elicit different properties inside of the herbs. And these are conversations that we need to be able to have. So there's an onus on us who live kind of in the medicines that are considered by a lot of people to be woo, not real medicine, not real science, not having real value. There's skepticism, tremendous amount of skepticism. What that means is that we have to have more of a scientific background. We have to have more clinical data and case studies. We have to have higher integrity and accountability for the quality of the products, the safety of the products, the efficacy of the products than the pharmaceutical companies do. And so how do we do that? So that's kind of the last stage of this conversation, is that what is the path forward, guys? How do we address that? Do we need to literally be sounding the horn of creating something like a organic certification for bud?
Please.
Or what? Okay. Okay. Well, but maybe that's the answer.
It's so, there's so many facets when we talk about cannabis. So it's like when I say CB1, people go, oh, CB1. And when you're talking about CB1, you're talking about really, you're talking about your brain. You're talking about pain relief, neuro protectors. CB2, we're talking about anti-inflammatory. We're talking about literally your immune system. So it's like, what are we trying to target? As well as when people are on medication, let's just say, high blood pressure. Well, cannabis can raise your blood pressure, lower your blood pressure. Someone that is, diabetic. Well, now we're eating these edibles, or we're having products that are now raising your glucose and insulin levels. So this is where it drives me. I'm like, and people are just like, yeah, just try it. And I'm like, good. And I'm like, what kind of SSIs are you on? And I'm like, ooh, what kind of terp? Ooh. So it really becomes now based on what meds you're on, or your diagnosis is, what is really going to work with your body and your system, because that's the whole point, is to use this as a tool, hopefully. And a lot of times it's not being used that way. And when I do an intake, it is like literally like a TCM. It's like, there's like 10 questions. And then what are your medications? And I'm looking at your cannabinoids. I'm looking at what enzymes this is going to touch, what effect is this going to have with, if you're taking Lipitor, because that takes away 60% of the products out there. And that's a little scary, because you have older generations and we're buying edibles for grandma, or children or adults with autism or epilepsy. And no one knows what the fuck they're giving you. And it's like, we're experimental rats. And I'm like, ooh, and that's scary.
Yeah. Chloe, do you want to jump in?
I think, well, I agree that it's scary. And Lauren, I think we need to do an intake for Remy and see what you would come up with for him, because he's not on medical cannabis. He's just on CBD, but I always debate. But, I think a lot of it is education and informing people, informing the budtenders, talking to farmers, getting real education out there about how these plants work, the risks and the benefits, and how we can, start building cleaner products and empowering the public to make better choices about their medicine. Like with Remy's Revenge, which is a formula I made for Remy's seizures. What I found is a lot of people just can't take it, because people will write in and say, my child's on 7 different anti-seizure pharmaceuticals. Like, can we get them off of them and put them on Remy's Revenge? And I'm like, absolutely not. You cannot do that. Like, if you and your doctor want to work together and get them off of those seizure meds, like, I can help support you on this end, but like, those seizure meds are very dangerous, very addictive to the brain, and really dangerous to get off of. Like, educating and empowering people about products and educating and empowering people about the power of the plants and what it can actually do. That's one of the things I always talk about with Chinese medicine also, is just like, if people don't know how incredibly powerful our medicine is and how safe it is, then we're never going to reach the amount of people and help people in the way that we potentially could if we get out there more and tell people. So I think it really starts with letting people know how powerful these plants are medicinally, and then letting them start to understand how you actually start unraveling what's in a product and what product is going to work best for you. So getting more people like Lauren certified out there.
Yeah.
And it's like when we talk about like THC, like, no, like let's look at THCV. That's an appetite suppressant. So do you want to have the munchies and eat everything in your house? Do you not want to eat everything in your house? And I love hemp, but what people also don't understand is when we're talking about hemp, a lot of times what it means is you buy that product. I'm not talking about CBD because they'll have like a different strain. Now, as soon as you add heat to it, like if you were smoking it, well, now it's converted into THC. So it's sold as non hallucinogenic or non, not having those properties. And I'm like, well, like, let's get real. As soon as you heat it, it's released. Is it going through the gut? Is it going to the brain? Are you juicing? So a lot of people with cancers, you want the root, you want the flower clean. Like, there are so many nutritional and health benefits, but again, where are you getting it? Where is it being sourced from? Just like we look at chicken and beef and we're like, wait, we have like a dirty dozen. It's like the weed should really be on that way too. It's like, well, what's in it? Let me see. And there should be high standards, and companies should actually want to have this gold standard stamped on their product.
Yeah. This is part of my motivation for getting you guys together. I think that I'm a big believer that, like, if the thing that we need doesn't exist and we can't trust the people that are meant to be, the people guarding the fort essentially and keeping us safe, and the people that are selling it don't understand how it works or what it is, and the people that are growing it don't understand what's safe and what's not safe, and the people taking it don't know how much to dose themselves with or what strains to take or the genetics or any of these kinds of things. Then how do we start unraveling this? Because this is primed to kind of blow up. The first, one of the common things that people say that are advocating for the legal use of weed, CBD, THC, is that it's safe. That this idea that you're going to go into psychosis it doesn't happen. It's not addictive. It's not habit forming. It's not something that we need to worry about. And there's always overcorrection in these conversations, right? So there's a part of that may be true, but also what we're doing to the plants right now and the strength and potency of them has never been naturally. This is not what we did with wolves when we turned them into chihuahuas. We're going the other way, right? We're getting involved, and instead of reducing the potency of these things, we're increasing it, and so we have to have our mind on safety. But all of that, I know I'm being verbose, but it's because I'm excited about the possibility of having a pathway forward, and I think you guys could be the two central figures that get this conversation started. I think that education is super important. So is advocacy. And so is regulation. If we can nail those three things, and we have a pathway for the budtenders to know what they're talking about, understand where the plants come from, what they need to know about and not know about, and that for anywhere that is advocating for this as something to be used medicinally, specifically, they need to know the basics of how our bodies work, and they need to know pathophysiology. They need to understand disease. Like they also need to understand how interactions happen when you bring pharmacology, with weedology, for lack of a better word, and we might need to come up with new words so people don't just roll their eyes in the back of their head before we start talking. But
it is so true, because you have such a high rise in nursing. A lot of people really don't understand or hear it. It's CHS, which is cannabinoid hyper syndrome, which means that you have overtaxed your endocannabinoid system. So think of it like when you have a drink, when we talk about you having a little bit of alcohol and then almost like you're blackout drunk, or that's killed people. Well, obviously it's not, but what happens is you're now severe nausea, abdominal pain, dehydration, and this sends people to the hospital, as well as once they have overtaxed their system, their body can't have cannabis anymore. So it's like really understanding dosing and how do we look at this like an edible when they give you 10 milligrams. I'm like, don't fucking do it. Cut it into 4. Start at 1.5. Put a fucking timer on. Wait an hour. How do you feel? Nothing? Maybe have another 1.5. Find your happy space, because it's really meant to be an enjoyable experience, not a let's go to the hospital, vomit, shit ourselves, go into psychosis. Like, this is what really worries me, is that because we have all these young people, your brain isn't done developing till 26, and we're smoking and we're having these high doses of THC. And I'm like, oh my God. And we're coming from psych nursing and behavioral health as well. This really fucks you up. And a lot of kids you hear now have gone into psychosis, and that's scary. So we really do need more trauma informed care with cannabis, so that you have someone that's saying, listen, hey, you want to use cannabis? Awesome. You know, especially with veterans and people with PTSD. It's like, cool, let's find this beautiful balance for you, so you're having an enjoyable also and a wellness experience, and not a fucking just like, oh my God.
Yeah. So you guys up for the task? Should we start the process of creating course materials first, that people can understand what this medicine can do, what it's for, how it works, what's safe, and what questions to ask? You guys up for it?
Oh yeah,
Let's do it.
let's
Okay.
do it.
All right. So guys, if anybody wants to reach out to you and either buy some of your herbs, Chloe or Lauren, get counseled by you, or get a pathway to consuming cannabis in a safe way, how do they reach out? How do they find you? Let the people know.
For me, you can go to radicalrootsherbs.com. If you are a practitioner and want a wholesale account, there's a link at the bottom of the website, or you can just email me at chloe@radicalrootsherbs.com. And yeah.
Awesome, Lauren.
He's doing so much better. I'm actually in the process of doing the website. But Weedologist, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, and send me a message, and we can set up a consultation and talk. I do a free 20-minute, because we would first want to see, is this something that's even aligned with your interests? I'm never going to make product recommendations like, well, I just want this. Well, it's kind of like, and it's against the law. That's why I'm to prescribe. So you cannot prescribe. I can make recommendations, and I make recommendations based on science and data, looking at genetics, looking at your pharmacology, looking at 15 plus years of nursing, acupuncture, pharmacology, health and wellness, holistic. So many. I'm so educated. It's funny. It's the only thing I collect in life is degrees. I'm like, which one do you want? But it's so important to really understand the intention and the purpose of it before you just take something, because it can really mess you up. And that's what I worry about, people that are just out there willy-nilly, just take it. And especially if you're new to cannabis, please, 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 for the love of God, stay away from infused products, diamonds, high concentrates. Put the fucking vape pen down. Stay away from distillates, because it is literally butane. It's not gonna marble red. You're gonna have COPD in 20 years. Like, it has to be solventless, clean. And that's what people don't understand is, yeah, it's $20 and the solventless one is $50. Yeah, but you're putting this into your lungs and in your body. And I mean, if you want to just have garbage, it's like eating McDonald's every day. I love McDonald's, Coke, and French fries. And no, I'm not sponsored by McDonald's. But, it's like, if you're going to eat that every single day, and then you go to the doctor, I don't know why I have cardiovascular disease and blocked arteries, and I'd like to sue them. You're like, what the fuck? Like, put the shit down. Like, ask more questions. Ask, what will this do? And is there any side effects I should be aware of? All these things, and no one, except it's fire and 32%. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to literally choke Budtenders when I hear that. Know your audience. I mean, I get it. 21-year-old fire. 45, 35, 55. Don't tell grandma it's fire. Send grandma to the hospital with AFib.
All right. So that's the answer. That's what we're talking about. I appreciate everybody that has listened and gotten this far. Stay tuned for the course, and you can message us if that's something that you're interested in. I think creating a pathway for bud tenders, especially because they're the last line of defense, right? There's a lot of conversation around what needs to be regulated in terms of the way these plants are treated, grown, of what they're allowed to do in terms of hybridization and the genetics of everything, and what kind of chemical processes are they allowed to use in the extraction of their properties and all that we need to know about that. We need to work on that. We got to advocate for that. But at minimum, the guy that works at the record store should know what kind of music I'm going to like when I come in, and not come back and break the record over his head, kind of a thing. Like, this is even more important than that. So if we take that amount of caution when it comes to our musical tastes and our cigar tastes, for God's sakes, when you're putting psychoactive substances into your body, let's take a little care, and let's be informed on what we're actually engaging with. So I appreciate you all for being here. Lots of love. We hope to catch you on the next one. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a joy.
Tenders it should be an honored thing. Like, people that really go into, they like smoking weed, which is great. But we should give them the support to be educated. And, it's like they want to be there to be helpful. But the problem, what I'm noticing is, like, they pay them $15 an hour. So it's like they don't give a shit. But realistically, they should, just like you said, it's like you go to the restaurant. What's in the food? You can't even tell me what the genetic is. You can't tell me what the terpenes. You can't tell me what the positive and the negatives are. Like, I don't expect you to be like, what's your blood pressure? What pharmacology are you on? But you should know the negatives and the positives so that you can educate. And that's what their job is, to educate the consumer and help them choose a product that might work for them.
Yeah.
Give me a whole room of just, like, they call it deli style weed, and it's like almost like herbal pharmacology. It's like, hold on, what do you need? And people should be able to try it and understand what the ingredients are, so they can educate people for themselves, but also for, like, hey, what do you want to experience? You got libido issues? Like, I hear Jenny Kush. It's not fucking Jenny Kush. Your vagina is not broken. 21-year-old, sure. But you've gone through menopause. You've had babies. You've had pelvic floor issues. Jenny Kush is like taking a freaking Tylenol. It's not going to be.
Yay. All right. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.